amazing to be here. I love the last presentation, that idea of making customers a bigger part of our lives, or making our brand a bigger part of our customers' lives. I think that's really important. And I am going to talk a little bit about our redesign, but I really just want to talk more generally about how we should think about our customers. So if we want to build the kind of businesses that last and that get people talking and that really make a difference, then I really think we need to talk or think about the engine of our growth, and that's obviously our customers. Because when we think about our customers as people that we want to delight, rather than leads we want to convert or sales we want to make, then everything changes. I love this photo because it's a very human moment, and to me, it's the ideal representation of your relationship between your brand and your customer. The customer is happy, and the Apple representative is happy, and they're sharing a moment. And moments like this don't come easily. Apple spends a tremendous amount of time crafting their user experience, really thinking deeply about their customers' needs and how to make them feel really special. And it shows. But it also shows when we don't think about the user experience. This is Brian Solis writing for Fast Company about why UX is essential to customer relationships. He says, without thoughtful UX, consumers meander without direction, reward, or utility, and their attention and ultimately their loyalty follows. Now, if you're still kind of skeptical about UX, consider this. Clayton Christensen is a Harvard business professor, and he looked at why leading companies are often disrupted by smaller companies. He looked across industries and over several decades, and ultimately concluded that a relentless focus on user experience and not profit is what's driving some of today's best companies like Apple and Amazon and Google. Now, Christensen is a Harvard business professor. He's not a designer. He didn't start out looking for user experience. It was unexpected. But ultimately, the data shows that user experience is a key differentiator. Why would this be? Because customer happiness is a leading indicator of the future health of any business. And great user experiences create happy customers. So how do we create great user experiences? Well, we start by considering the needs of the people using our product. On a basic level, we all have the same needs, so we should start there. We all need to feel safe, that no one is going to come along and hit us on the head and kill us and eat us. We all need to feel a sense of connection. This is the feeling that we get from our family and friends. This is what we're doing in this room right now. All of us have similar interests, and we're coming together to share ideas and mingle at parties tonight. And all of us need to feel a sense of purpose. This is the idea that we have a place in the world, that we're getting better and smarter, and that all the work that we're putting in is really contributing towards something that matters to us. I think the needs in our real lives map really nicely to the needs we have in our digital lives. We need our products to be usable. We need to feel that the people who built them are competent and trustworthy, and that we can use the product to accomplish our goals. We need things to be pleasurable. Beauty and delight add enjoyment to life, and they create moments that are memorable and worth sharing with friends. And we need things to be meaningful. We spend a tremendous amount of time with technology. We need to feel that that time is well spent, that it's contributing to our lives and the lives of people that we care about. And I also think that it's important that we design for these needs in order, because they build on each other. So, if someone isn't going to feel connected to the people around them if they don't feel safe. And it's unlikely that you'll feel a greater sense of purpose if you feel disconnected and isolated. So if someone doesn't understand what you do or how to accomplish some specific goal on your site, they're not going to care that you spent time making the text friendly or beautiful, or that your product could potentially change their life. They just want to know how to accomplish this one thing. And so we need to remember to always design for usability first, address those needs first, because they're going to be different than someone who already gets it. So how do we make things usable? Well, usability is the foundation of a good user experience, and it just means making things as easy to understand and use as possible. Now, this might sound straightforward, but you would be amazed at the multitude of ways that we get in our customers' way and confuse them and frustrate them and just generally dissuade them from using our products. This is simple. This company has built its entire brand on being more usable and more human than a traditional bank. Everything about their product site and application is geared toward creating a sense of trust. And in their source code, the title attribute, they actually say they're a worry-free alternative to traditional banking. When we take a look at their app, one of the first things that we see is this safe to spend number. I love this number, and anyone who's had an online bank account immediately knows why this is useful. It's not helpful to me to see the last 25 or 50 pending transactions. It doesn't help me understand what I really want to know, which is how much money do I actually have, and will I overdraft if I buy that cool thing that I want? Now, traditional banks make money on us when we overdraft, so it's not really in their best interest to make this number plain. And presumably Simple makes money on us too when we overdraft. But they set themselves apart by putting the interests of their users first. And you can imagine how this would make people feel. I know when I first saw this, I immediately felt a sense of relief that there could be a company that would treat me this way, and excitement and trust. So I think it's really smart. When we take a look at the sign-up pages, this is the account checking sign-up pages for two of Simple's competitors, Bank of America and Wells Fargo. We can see how Simple compares there. The first thing I notice about Bank of America's page, I notice three things. One, it's a wall of text. People don't read your sites, they scan them, especially when they're trying to accomplish something. They just want to do their thing and get out. So this already isn't helping our user. Two, it's not immediately clear to me exactly what I'm supposed to do. The form isn't on the page. It's actually like halfway down the page. So there's no immediate call to action here. And three, and this one's a little picky because there's no legacy of banks being particularly human, but it's not a very human tone. It's just kind of very bank speak. There's nothing special about it. I don't get a sense of the people behind it. And so I think it's a missed opportunity. So if we look at Wells Fargo now, the very first thing I see is a little signs of life. They say, we know your time is valuable. Thanks, Wells Fargo. And they also try to be helpful. They say, here's what you'll need to apply. The form is closer to the top of the page, so I immediately see what I'm supposed to do. But I still get this legalese wall of text at the end, which just isn't that great. So now here's Simple. I mean, completely different, right? The very first thing I notice about this page is that they thank me for applying, and then they tell me how excited they are to have me. The form is right at the top of the page. The form fields are huge. It's clearly labeled. It's very obvious to me exactly what I'm supposed to do. I think it's also worth pointing out that the very first thing that Simple asked me for is my name. It's like saying, welcome to our tribe. What should we call you? Whereas the first thing that Bank of America asks me is how much I want to pay in account fees. Now, those examples were usability was very tightly coupled with branding and positioning. So what if you're small or your brand's already established? Small usability changes can still have a really big impact on the user experience. We found that at MailChimp. This is my company. If you're not familiar, we are an email newsletter company. We let people collect subscribers, design and send newsletters, and then track the results. So this is a test that we ran on our pricing page. Now, a pricing page serves a very specific purpose. It's just there so that people can see how much your product's going to cost them and then sign up. But people can have very different expectations for how they want to be treated when they're trying to make a decision. So we had two questions that were the impetus for this test. One, we were curious if one sign-up button at the top of the page kind of out of your way, but ready when you are, was more usable, or if a sign-up button under each tier would be more convenient. We also were kind of curious. Our designers did not like the page with multiple pricing buttons, so I was kind of curious, is the version of the page with one pricing button more beautiful than the version of the page with multiple pricing buttons? Research has shown that when we perceive something as more beautiful, we also perceive it as more valuable, more trustworthy, and more usable. So when we ran this test, we found really big differences between where people were coming from. People who came from search loved the page with multiple pricing buttons. Conversion signups from this page increased by 52%. People who came from direct did not like this page. Signups decreased by 27%. Now, our working theory for why this is that people, MailChimp has a very laid-back brand. We don't really do a lot of selling. And so people who were familiar with our brand and coming direct might have been turned off by the multiple sign-up buttons because it just felt too pushy. Whereas people who weren't as familiar, had to search for us, didn't mind because this more aggressive approach is the norm. So what this taught us is that what's convenient and usable to one person might actually be pushy to another. So we just need to remember to think about different scenarios and try to design for them whenever we can. And whether you're creating usable experiences for everyone, like on Simple, or for specific groups, like on this pricing page, just taking the time to do that, I think really conveys respect for your audience's time and attention. And it also prevents people from being turned off by your product before they've even had a chance to use it. So to recap, to make your product usable, be human. Talk to people like you would talk to a friend. Make next steps obvious. People just want to get stuff done, so make their lives easy, and chances are more people will actually complete the task. And adapt to expectations wherever you can. So once you've made your product usable, how you go about making it pleasurable is really how you differentiate yourself from the competition. Our director of user experience, Aaron Walter, has said that though our instincts might tell us that it's risky being different, the greater risk is in being the same as your competitors as you make it harder for people to understand why your brand is the better choice. So here are the search results in the App Store for to-do list. If I had to choose a new to-do list today, how would I decide? We all like to think that we're super rational creatures, that we would weigh the evidence and make lists of pros and cons or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that when we're confronted with overwhelming choice, we're much more likely to just go with our gut, to go with the one that appeals to the pleasure-seeking part of our brain that we think we'll enjoy using the most. So here are examples of 3 apps that use pleasure in very different ways to appeal to very different audiences. Clear is a really simple to-do app that uses gestures instead of UI elements to interact with tasks. It's kind of a novelty. This is Epic Win. You play the hero of your own life, and tasks are called quests, and as you complete them, you earn points and find treasure and level your character. And this is Carrot. Carrot is a to-do app with a taskmaster personality. She's happy as long as you're productive and completing tasks, but as soon as you start to slack, she gets angry and then she punishes you. So each of these apps is usable, but their feature sets overlap significantly, right? So what makes us want to buy them is what makes them pleasurable. For Clear, that's aesthetics. For Epic Win, that's gamification. And for Carrot, that's personality. Each of these apps makes their competition irrelevant by catering to a very specific audience with a very specific kind of user experience. Not everyone is going to get why each of these apps is appealing. But that's okay, because the people who do get it are going to love it, and then they're going to tell their friends. Here's another app from MailChimp, or another example from MailChimp. And I wanted to include this example because you don't have to like change your entire app. Pleasure doesn't have to be at the forefront necessarily of your app. There are plenty of small ways that you can just incorporate a little bit of joy and pleasure and surprise into your app to make it a little bit more fun, and that's enough a lot of times to differentiate you in your customers' eyes from your competitors. So this is an example when you're getting ready to send your email newsletter. Freddie is there. This is a pop-up preview, so you can see how the page looks, or the email looks. You can stretch it out, make it bigger or smaller. And our mascot, Freddie von Schimpenheimer IV, is there with his arm stretched out to help you figure out the width of your email. Now, we recommend that emails are 650 pixels or smaller, but we also take the opportunity to surprise our users. So when you stretch the page too wide, Freddie's arm pops off. This is what's called a delighter. It's just a small, pleasurable little moment that just makes work a little bit more fun. But it's not all fun. Neuroscientist John Medina has said that emotionally charged events persist much longer in our memories and are recalled with greater accuracy than neutral memories. So when we surprise people, not only are they more likely to remember the experience and maybe tell people about it, but they're also more likely to remember the information that we wanted to teach them, which in this case was that emails should be less than 600 pixels wide, or the chimp gets it. Here's another example from the MailChimp app. This is from the redesign. When you've sent your campaign, people are usually excited and relieved, so Freddie is there to greet you with a congratulatory high five. Success pages are a great place to do something fun because they're outside of the task workflow, and there's no chance that they'll interrupt work. We also found something really interesting, I think. We found that people started taking pictures of themselves, high-fiving Freddie, and posting them on Twitter. Now, we get a few of these a day. It's pretty cool. What this teaches us is that when we create emotionally engaging interfaces, when we create emotionally engaging experiences, people stop thinking of our products and our interface as like dumb, ooh, hello, sorry. Okay. People stop thinking of our products as just dumb interfaces, and they start thinking of them as people that they want to interact with. And I think that's really powerful. So to recap, to make your product pleasurable, aim to delight a target audience. Delight is different for everyone, so just make sure that you know who you're designing for and design the best you can just for them. Show some personality. Personality is how we make gut decisions about whether or not we want to spend time with you. So it makes it easier for your customers to see why you're different than your competitors. And add little surprises. It just makes things more fun, and it gives people something memorable to maybe later share with their friends, because who doesn't want to pass on joy to their friends, right? Okay, finally, make it meaningful. Now this might seem kind of heavy, and it's true. Like, we all want to feel like we're spending our time well, and we're doing things, all the work that we're doing is really contributing towards something that we care about. We want to be recognized for our hard work, and we want to be appreciated. So these are big, messy needs, and while we can't necessarily really meet them, there are still plenty of small ways that we can just try to make our product just a little bit more meaningful. This is a personal example. It was my birthday not too long ago, and when I went to Google, it was a normal day, had my coffee, sat down, opened the page, and saw this. And I was like really surprised. I didn't really get it. I was like, oh, cakes, wow, neat. But it wasn't until I went to take a screenshot that I saw this. And I realized that it was for me. And I just felt really special. Now, I love this example because this kind of encapsulates everything that we've been talking about. It's usable because the page functions exactly the same way as every other day of the year. It's pleasurable because it's beautiful, and it's a variation on a pattern that I'm familiar with, custom home pages. And it's meaningful. At least it's meaningful to me, Because it feels good to be recognized on your birthday. You know, I know that there wasn't like someone at Google sitting there with my birthday on their calendar, like going, okay, it's time to launch that page, but that's the way it felt. And so it was a really warm and personal way to basically thank me for trusting Google enough to share my personal data and to thank me for being a long-term customer. I got rewarded for that, and it felt good. Here's another example from MailChimp. A few years ago, we analyzed our keywords, and we realized that our paid search traffic just wasn't great. It wasn't converting well, and we weren't getting that much of it. So we decided to take a leap and stop giving that money to Google and start investing it in gifts for our customers. So now when you send your first paid campaign, we send you a MailChimp shirt. Now, I think there's something really important here. My director of marketing, Mark DiCristina, says this really well. He says, we think of these things as gifts. If we consider them primarily marketing expenses, we'd want to figure out how to minimize cost and maximize the brand effect. Essentially, we'd be thinking about ourselves. And this is really important because when we think about user experience, we really need to think about delighting our customers and not necessarily on the immediate return on investment. Now, I'm not like suggesting that you throw money down a well, but if you want to build the kind of relationships that are long-term and that create super loyal, super engaged, evangelizing customers, then you need to think long-term, and you need to give without the expectation of reciprocation. Because if we focused on profit instead of the user experience, our customers would see right through us. I mean, they're smart. They'll know that we want something from them. So they really have to they do have to come from the heart. You do have to give, initially at least, without the expectation of reciprocation. So the other neat thing about these shirts, they connect us with our customers, but they also connect our customers with each other. We get lots of great tweets from people like this woman who says she went on a beach trip with her friends and found out that 3 out of 4 of them had MailChimp shirts. That's when I knew I'd found my people. I think that's amazing. These shirts help people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. People recognize others with MailChimp shirts as having shared values and belonging to the same strange tribe. I'll have one more example for you, and this is from Wufoo's CEO. It's an excerpt of a thank you note that he wrote to a paid customer. He says, users like you help us achieve our dreams. I think this is lovely. The idea that our customers help us achieve our dreams, because they do, right? But we don't often think about it like that. Now, if you haven't heard of Wufoo, they create forms. They let you basically create drag and drop forms that connect to a database and collect information just really easily. Their whole product is about fun. It looks like a Fisher-Price toy. And back before they sold to SurveyMonkey, they used to gather every Friday in the CEO's living room to talk about product goals and write thank you notes, handwritten thank you notes, to their latest paid customers. Imagine being a Wufoo customer and getting one of these notes. I mean, who sends handwritten notes these days? And from a perfect stranger? It's crazy. You can understand why these made it onto Flickr, and people tweeted about them and blogged about them and shared stories about getting kind of choked up about it. So it's really no wonder that between Wufoo's fun-filled interface and this habit of paying really personal attention to their customers, that they don't need a marketing budget. Their customers do all the work of telling people about Wufoo, for them. So to summarize, to make your product meaningful, celebrate milestones. It's good to recognize people that, hey, you're still here, we're glad you're here, we hope you'll be here next year. Reward achievements. People have a lot to do, and they work hard, so I think it's important to reward them and to notice, especially, yeah, I lost my train of thought, sorry guys. And just say thank you. It never hurts, and that personal bit of attention can really make the difference between you and your customer, or your competitors. If someone reaches out, I know that my friend uses Wufoo, and he gets a special thank you note when he becomes a paid customer versus something else, some anonymous cup. Like, who am I going to choose? I want to help Wufoo achieve their dreams. Of course I'm going to choose Wufoo. It's great. So just say thank you when you can. It never hurts, and it's just a really nice human thing to do. So what I'm getting at with all of this is really that user experience is an opportunity to create a genuine connection with your customers. People want to feel connected to what you do and why you do it, because ultimately it says something about them. How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives, and the people and products that we let into our lives matter. It is possible to both grow your business and be a positive force in your customers' lives. You can do that by keeping their best interests at heart and by letting your humanity show through the screen. You can do that by catering to your audience with user experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. If we have any audience questions, we probably have time. So MailChimp has a site that's already working awesomely.
Yes.
And you do a redesign.
Yes.
Yes, something Moz recently did. How much of that, now you showed some testing, how much of that are you testing before you release it? How much are you just going with it and pushing it out there into the world?
Well, there were two phases. We have a whole user experience research team, and they spent like 6 months flying all over the world to talk to customers and really get a sense of how they're using email, what their pain points were, how we could make things better. And so all of that data really informed the decision, any decisions that we made on the redesign. We didn't actually test it with people. I mean, we did tons of user testing. Data didn't so much play a role in design decision making at that point. No.
So you're actually sending your people to the customer?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Lauren.
Hi guys, hi Allison. Thank you so much for getting up here and telling us some great UX stuff. So if you're lucky enough to work at MailChimp or work at Moz, those are really fun brands. It's really easy to have a great time with the MailChimp and Roger. Mm-hmm. But what if you're working with a client or you're working in-house with a brand that's much more traditional and is a little more uncomfortable with using one of these delightful experiences and getting a little fun with it? What recommendations would you have with broaching that subject?
I think Simple is a really great case study because they're not like goofy, but they're really warm and conversational and human. And so that's, I think, a good place to start. Just remember that you don't have to be silly. You just want to be yourself. So, you know, and like I said, communicate with people like they're your friend rather than having this super formal, corporate speak. That doesn't really benefit anyone. So I would just say start simple. Just make things a little bit, one of our content person, Kate Kiefer-Lee, always suggests that when you write something, say it out loud. And if it sounds awkward or formal, then make it more conversational. And that's a really great first step to just making your brand a little bit more human without the silliness.
Thank you.
What is the full name of your mascot?
Freddie von Chimpenheimer IV.
Shaw, final question.
Okay, so this is, again, from a slightly different perspective than a company like MailChimp or Moz, but more on the budget side. Mm-hmm. So if you're a really small company, or you're working with a really small company, and you know that you desperately need to do something to improve your UX, where do you go for help, or where do you start when it comes to actually trying to move away from what you have, which is could possibly be inherently not great, and try and move towards something that works so much better, but on a very small budget?
Sure. The first place I would start really is with usability, because like I said, if you don't have usability, nothing else matters. And user testing, there's this perception that it has to be this big thing, that you have to get a great sample size from all these different places, and it's this epic, expensive thing. But really, it can be dirt cheap. Like, you can go to a coffee shop and say, hey, do you mind trying to do this thing on my website? Can I buy you a coffee? Can I buy you a cookie? Like, just go to anyone, because the majority of the problems with your site will be exposed by, the first 10 or 20 people. I don't even think you need 20. Like, the first 10 people will catch the majority of the really big problems with your site. So that's a really great place to start. And if you're interested in that, I know Steve Krug has written a great book. He wrote Don't Make Me Think, and I think he also has a new book just on user testing on like a shoestring. So I would go check that out.
Awesome, thanks.
Allison Urban, everybody.
Thank you.